Books in the house, coming to you on a Friday night, and I discovered that there was another Hansel and Gretel movie, and it ended up being the original movie for Hansel versus Gretel. There was a sequel, and I didn't know that. I didn't know the original movie. I missed that. So between 2013 and 2015, there were four Hansel and Gretel movies made. Uh, kind of a little crazy on that. So I just finished watching it because I wanted to see what it was, and it ended up being this is just called Hansel and Gretel, 2013. Got a 2.8. Um, I'll give it for. I think it's as good. Witch Hunter, Hansel and Gretel, Witch Hunter had a 6.1. I think I'd give it just as much. This is a horror flick. This one goes the horror route. Um, this is related to Hansel versus Gretel, which was made in 2015. And the only actor that made it into the sequel is Brent Lydic. He ended up being Hansel in both the versions, but otherwise, the screenwriters, the screenwriters. The only I think other person that's from the original movie. But Hansel and Gretel as a horror flick is better than Hansel versus Gretel for the sequel. Kind of would have been nice if they would have kept the same Hansel and Gretel tandem. That would have probably worked out a little bit. But yeah, all of a sudden I came across it and I thought, yeah, I guess we're going to call it. And then I found out that it's a sequel, so it kind of surprised me. So hope everybody's having a good day. And I thought I'd cover a couple horror flicks that can go over. Some classic ones or older ones. I did Count Dracula and His Vampire Bride, 1973. It got a 5.6. This is Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing are in these. And these are guys that kind of did the horror flicks in the 50s and 60s. And then I decided to take a look. The two of them participated in movies together 22 times. Something that kind of surprised me. I knew that they did the Count Dracula movies a couple times, but they did some other horror flicks too together. I think one of them that it isn't a horror flick, but Sherlock Holmes' House of the Baskerville. That was one of their movies that they did. It's kind of a dark, the 70s kind of, it's a dark movie kind of. I know the word I'm trying to, a 70s movie, think of that. It has some cheesy parts of it where it's using modern technology back then. And it, I know there's a word, psychedelic a little bit. That's kind of what's involved in the movie. It does have a little gore and stuff in it. It does the job story wise. Next one I watched is Legend of the Mummy, 1998. It's got a 2.9. Kind of had a made for TV kind of feel to it when you were watching it. For 2.9, I don't think it was that low. I mean, there's other things you can watch. Lou Gossett Jr. and Amy Locane are in this. I forgot to mention in Hansel and Gretel, Dee Wallace. She plays the witch, and she does a pretty good job. And she's done a lot in acting. And lately, it seems like she's gone the horror, doing horror flicks as part of her gig. And then Stephanie Greco did Gretel in this movie. And then again, Brent Lydic was Hansel. So I just want to mention those actors and actresses. Next movie I did is West of Hell, 5.6, 2018. Western horror flick back in the West. And it ends up being people get on a train and they have to deal with what they did in their past. Catches up to them, and they have to deal with the devil. And a 5.6. I guess, yeah, that's about right. The 2.9 for The Legend of the Mummy is kind of throwing me looking at these ratings of these movies. Like the Hansel and Gretel got a 2.8. And for a horror flick, I think it's worth watching. So just to give you that. And then my last one, Howl, 2015, got a 5.3. 2015. Oh, geez, I've said that already. Apologies. Passengers get stranded on a train in the middle of the woods. Train breaks down, and they have to survive a creature that attacks the train. Again, it holds its own for your werewolf movie. And again, I'm passing people up. West of Hell actors in that Tony Todd, Michael Eklund, and Lance Hendricksen is on that movie. And then in Howl, Ed Speleers and Holly Weston is on here. And I am seeing Mr. Jeff Johnson commenting. I'm not really seeing the screen, Jeff, so apologize on that. So hello, and I hope you're having a good evening. So those are my movies for October Halloween, and I'll change it up a little bit. But like I say, when I came across Hansel and Gretel, I was like, oh God, I missed one, and it ends up being the first installment of Hansel versus Gretel. Doesn't really matter if you do watch either. I mean, it makes sense, but like I say, with not having all the same actors and actresses in the sequel, or to kind of piece it together, it would have helped a little bit. But that is it for today, and I hope everybody has a good day and enjoy your weekend.